The Galactic Federation's announcement came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, interrupting soap operas and cat videos across Earth's communication channels. Ambassador Zixtal, with their crystalline form shimmering in 12 different dimensions, delivered what they believed to be the most terrifying declaration in 7,000 years of galactic peace. Humanity, the ambassador's translucent form pulsed with grave authority. You have been deemed too dangerous to exist within the civilized galaxy. The Federation Council has unanimously voted for your immediate subjugation. Surrender now, or face the combined might of 10,000 species. The first response came from a teenager in Nebraska who posted a meme comparing the ambassador's crystalline form to a disco ball. It went viral in seconds. Admiral Priya Patel, commander of Earth's United Defense Force, watched the declaration from her office in the Himalayan Command Center. She took a sip of her masala chai, set down her cup, and burst into uncontrollable laughter. Her reaction would set the tone for humanity's response to what the Federation considered an extinction-level threat. Across the planet, humans responded not with panic or fear, but with an unprecedented wave of creativity. Comedians began writing material about alien invasion protocols. Social media exploded with jokes about how the Federation had clearly never seen an Earth goose if they thought humans were the most dangerous species. Meme factories worked overtime. The Federation's surveillance systems, monitoring Earth's responses, reported back data that made no sense to the Council's strategic analysts. Instead of preparing bunkers or scrambling military forces, humans were making jokes, planning invasion-themed parties, creating merchandise. What the Federation couldn't understand, was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since they first looked up at the stars. Not with fear, but with imagination. Every alien invasion movie, every sci-fi novel, every video game had been a thought experiment, a simulation of possibilities that had trained generations to think outside conventional boundaries of warfare. In the secure chambers beneath Mount Fuji, Director Hikaru Tanaka of the Global Defense Initiative reviewed the actual military preparations with a small smile. The Federation would expect conventional weapons, ships, missiles, energy weapons. They wouldn't be looking for the quantum entanglement disruption fields hidden in everyday satellites. They wouldn't anticipate the mimetic warfare programs embedded in Earth's response to their broadcasts. And they certainly wouldn't expect the weaponized mathematics that Dr. Isabella Santos had developed by studying cat behavior. They really don't get it, do they? Tanaka mused to his AI assistant, AI. 7,000 years of peace has made them forget what real innovation looks like. Aria's holographic form flickered thoughtfully. The Federation's development has been largely linear, Director. They haven't had to adapt to survive in millennia. Their technology advanced, but their thinking stagnated. Across the solar system, humanity's real preparations remained invisible to Federation scans. Jupiter's moons house reality-warping engines designed by scientists who spent their free time writing fantasy novels. Mars' dust storms concealed swarms of nanobots programmed by teenagers who learned coding to mod their favorite games. And in Earth's oceans, networks of genetically engineered coral served as organic quantum computers, their patterns inspired by ancient poetry. The Federation's War Council, led by Supreme Commander Vexthor, watched with growing unease as their initial deadline for surrender passed with no response except an explosion of social media content about what kind of snacks to serve at end-of-the-world parties. They're either insane or they have something we can't detect. Vexthor's central eye pulsed with concern. No species has ever responded to a Federation ultimatum with entertainment. In orbit around Neptune, Commander Rashid Khan of the Earth ship Magellan received the final confirmation. All systems were in place. Humanity's scattered children, colonizing the outer reaches of the solar system, had completed their preparations years ago. Not because they feared alien invasion, but because solving impossible problems was what humans did for fun. All stations reporting ready, Commander, his first officer reported. Though engineering wants to know if they can finish their betting pool on how long it takes the Federation to realize we've been using their own communication network to coordinate our defense for the past decade. Khan chuckled. Tell them they can keep the pool running. And add my bet. They won't figure it out until we want them to. As the Federation's mighty armada began its approach to the Sol system, humanity continued its seemingly oblivious celebration. News channels ran special features on historic Earth invasions that failed spectacularly. Social media influencers started trading fashion tips for looking your best during an alien apocalypse. Religious leaders debated whether alien souls could be saved, while philosophers organized conferences on the humor of human extinction. What no one in the Federation realized was that every joke, every meme, every seemingly frivolous response carried encoded instructions, coordinating the most elaborate defense strategy ever conceived. Humanity had turned their greatest weapon, their ability to find humor in the darkest situations, into a tactical advantage. In her Himalayan office, Admiral Patel finished her Che and opened a secure channel to all Earth's defense commands. Well, she announced with a smile that would have terrified the Federation Council had they understood its meaning. Let's show them why humans have survived every catastrophe we've ever faced. Begin Operation Cosmic Joke. Across the solar system, humanity's laughter continued to echo. Not because they didn't understand the threat, but because they had long ago learned that the best way to face impossible odds was with a smile and a plan so audacious that no one would believe it until it was too late. The Federation was about to learn why humans made jokes about everything, even extinction-level threats. Because nothing was more dangerous than a species that could laugh in the face of annihilation, except perhaps a species that had turned that laughter into a weapon. The Federation's first wave of ships entered the solar system with all the subtlety of a fireworks display. Their massive vessels, each the size of a small moon, moved in perfect geometric formations that would have impressed any mathematician if humans still thought in straight lines. They're using the theorem of unified combat, observed Lieutenant Nadia Volkov from her command post in the Kuiper Belt. Same tactics they've used for 7,000 years. She took a bite of her peanut butter sandwich, deliberately ignoring the flashing red alert signals. Think we should tell them about chaos theory. The Federation's approach was textbook perfect, their ships arranged in the legendary Spear of Ultimate Victory formation that had supposedly never failed in simulated combat. Unfortunately for them, humans had stopped following textbooks around the same time they'd invented jazz. First Contact Command, buried deep beneath the Mariana Trench, activated their initial response. It wasn't a barrage of missiles or a fleet of warships. Instead, every entertainment system in the Federation fleet suddenly began playing Earth's most annoying earworms, songs carefully selected by a team of psychologists and musicians to drive any sentient being to distraction. Baby Shark into Never Gonna Give You Up into Macarena. Chief of Psychological Operations Jun Park checked his playlist with satisfaction. The perfect weaponized playlist. Let's see how their perfect formation holds when they can't get these tunes out of their heads. The effect was instantaneous. The Federation's immaculate formation began to wobble as ship captains tried desperately to shut off their entertainment systems, not realizing that the songs had been encoded with quantum algorithms that made them impossible to silence. Some crews reported that their navigation systems had begun dancing. Supreme Commander Vexthor watched in horror as the mighty Spear of Ultimate Victory transformed into something that looked more like a drunk snake trying to do calculus. How are they doing this? Where are their weapons? The answer came in the form of a transmission from Earth, a cat video. But not just any cat video. This one had been engineered by Dr. Santos' team to contain encrypted commands that reprogrammed the Federation's quantum computers through the power of feline cuteness. As it turned out, the seemingly random pattern of a cat chasing a laser pointer could, when properly encoded, completely rewrite an alien operating system. Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt, Operation Party Crasher went into effect. Thousands of asteroids, which humans had spent decades hollowing out and turning into stealth ships, activated their engines. Each was piloted by an AI that had learned strategy not from military simulations, but from playing Mario Kart. "Blue shells away," announced ARIA across the defense network as the asteroids began their approach, using maneuvers that defied both physics and common sense. The Federation's tactical analysts, trained to expect traditional space combat, found themselves unable to predict the movements of vessels that appeared to be deliberately hitting each other to gain speed boosts. Their sophisticated tracking systems, designed to anticipate logical military maneuvers, crashed while trying to calculate the trajectory of an asteroid that was waveboarding on Saturn's rings. On Earth, Admiral Patel reviewed the incoming data with satisfaction. Phase 1 is proceeding as planned, she announced to the Global Defense Council. The Federation is responding exactly as expected. They're completely unable to comprehend why we're not fighting properly. In orbit around Mars, Commander Rashid Khan watched as the Federation's mighty armada tried to regroup. Their attempts to maintain military discipline in the face of Earth's psychological warfare were almost admirable. Almost. "Should we launch Phase 2? His first officer asked, trying not to laugh as they watched a Federation dreadnought spin in circles, its crew apparently convinced they were starring in a musical. "Not yet," Khan replied, checking the latest updates from Earth's social media. "Let them stew a bit longer. Besides, I hear the betting pool on how long it takes them to realize those cat videos are actually weapon systems has reached orbital station levels." The Federation's War Council was in chaos. Their perfectly planned invasion was being disrupted by what appeared to be a planet-wide party. Their sophisticated sensors detected no traditional military buildup, yet somehow their ships were being systematically disabled by what seemed to be an impossible combination of pop culture and quantum physics. This defies all combat logic. Vexthor's crystalline form flickered with frustration. Where are their warships? Their planetary defense systems? Why are they sending us pictures of something called Doji? In her lab beneath Mount Fuji, Dr. Isabella Santos watched the Federation's confusion with professional interest. "They still haven't figured out that we've turned their own communication network into the galaxy's largest neural network," she noted to Director Tanaka. "Should we tell them that every meme they're receiving is actually reprogramming their ship's eye?" Tanaka shook his head, watching as another Federation vessel fell victim to what appeared to be a viral dance challenge. "Let them figure it out. Sometimes the best way to learn is through experience." Across the solar system, humanity's real defense grid remained invisible, not through advanced stealth technology, but because it was hidden in plain sight. Every satellite broadcasting cat videos, every social media post about alien fashion faux pas, every seemingly innocent transmission was part of the most sophisticated defense network ever created. The Federation had expected a civilization that would either cower in fear or respond with predictable military force. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that had turned their own assumptions into weapons, their certainty into vulnerability, and their inability to understand human nature into their greatest weakness. As Phase 1 reached its conclusion, Admiral Patel prepared to initiate Phase 2. "Send the signal," she ordered. "It's time to show them why humans have survival shows for entertainment." Across Earth's communications channels, a new message began to broadcast, a cooking show titled "How to Prepare an Alien Invasion." The Federation's analysts would spend hours trying to determine if it was a threat, a joke, or an actual recipe. They would never suspect it was all three. Phase 2 began with what appeared to be a massive system failure across Earth's social media networks. For exactly 3 minutes and 14 seconds, every screen connected to Earth's global network displayed a 404 error, humor not found message. The Federation's commanders celebrated what they thought was their first victory, until they realized their ship's systems were beginning to display the same error. Did they just weaponize a system crash? Supreme Commander Vexthor's crystalline structure trembled in disbelief as reports flooded in. Federation ships across the solar system were experiencing impossible malfunctions. Navigation systems insisted on taking the scenic route. Weapon systems demanded knock-knock jokes before agreeing to arm. Life support systems started playing elevator music. In her command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, General Yuki Nakamura watched the chaos unfold with practiced calm. "Operation Dad Joke is proceeding as planned," she reported. "The quantum entanglement field is now fully saturated with what we're calling weaponized whimsy." The true genius of humanity's defense wasn't in its technology, but in its implementation. While the Federation had spent millennia perfecting the art of war, humans had been perfecting the art of turning absolutely anything into a tool for survival, including their sense of humor. Commander Khan's fleet of stealth asteroids began Phase 3, deploying what the engineering team had dubbed probability bombs, weapons that didn't actually explode, but instead altered the mathematical likelihood of things going wrong. Federation ships found themselves experiencing the kind of bad luck usually reserved for cartoon characters. "They've realized something's wrong," Lieutenant Volkov reported from her Kuiper Belt station, now tracking Federation ships trying desperately to maintain formation while experiencing what could only be described as cosmic slapstick. But they still haven't figured out we're using their own probability calculations against them. The Federation's mighty warships, designed to withstand any conventional attack, had no defense against weapons that operated on cartoon logic. Their shields, calibrated to stop energy beams and projectiles, were useless against attacks that technically weren't attacks at all, just statistically unlikely series of unfortunate events. In the Himalayan Command Center, Admiral Patel reviewed the latest battlefield analysis. "The Federation's strategic AI is still trying to identify our weapon systems," she noted. "They're looking for traditional military hardware, while we're basically running the galaxy's largest comedy club." The Federation's response to their mounting failures was to fall back on their most basic tactical doctrine: overwhelming force. They began charging their primary weapons, massive energy cannons capable of reducing planets to ash. But humanity had anticipated this too. Dr. Santos' latest innovation activated just as the Federation prepared to fire. "The Schrödinger's cat defense system is online," she announced to Director Tanaka. "Every Federation weapon is now simultaneously fired and not fired until someone tells a good joke." The Federation's mighty armada found itself in an impossible situation. Their weapons wouldn't fire unless someone in their crew could successfully tell a joke funny enough to collapse the quantum uncertainty. Unfortunately, 7,000 years of peace had left them with a severe sense of humor deficit. "Someone tell me how they're doing this," Vex Thor demanded, their crystalline form now flickering between 12 different shades of frustration. "How can they be defeating us with entertainment?" The answer, of course, was that humanity hadn't been preparing for war at all. They'd been preparing to survive, and they'd learned long ago that survival required more than just weapons. It required creativity, adaptability, and the ability to find humor in even the darkest situations. In orbit around Jupiter, the reality-warping engines powered up, their calculations based on a unique combination of advanced physics and stand-up comedy timing. "Reality distortion field at maximum capacity," reported ARIA. "Beginning Operation Punchline." The effects were immediate and devastating. Federation ships found themselves experiencing what their crews would later describe as existence with a laugh track. Physical laws became suggestions. Probability became a punchline. The very fabric of space-time developed a sense of irony. "They've turned the entire solar system into a cosmic comedy club," Khan observed, watching as Federation ships tried to navigate through space that now operated on sitcom logic. "Should we tell them the laugh track is actually a carrier wave for our quantum algorithms?" The Federation's War Council, watching their invincible armada dissolve into chaos, finally began to understand what they were facing. Humanity hadn't survived countless disasters by building bigger weapons or stronger shields. They'd survived by turning everything, including disaster itself, into a tool for survival. Admiral Patel prepared to initiate the final phase of humanity's defense. "Send the signal," she ordered. "It's time to show them why humans invented both tragedy and comedy." Across the solar system, every human installation began broadcasting simultaneously, not threats or demands, but an invitation to the galaxy's first interstellar comedy festival. The Federation's analysts would spend years trying to understand how an invitation to a party had brought their mighty armada to its knees. But that was the point they'd missed from the beginning. Humans had never seen the Federation's declaration of war as a threat. They'd seen it as an opportunity to teach the galaxy's oldest civilization that sometimes the best defense isn't a weapon at all. It's a punchline. "Attention Federation forces," Admiral Patel's voice rang across every communication channel. "We're pleased to announce that you've all been participants in the galaxy's first interspecies improvisation show. Your performances were memorable." The Federation's command structure experienced what humans would call a collective brain freeze. 7,000 years of military doctrine offered no protocol for responding to an enemy that had turned an invasion into an entertainment event. In the depths of their flagship, Supreme Commander Vexthor finally asked the question that had been building since the beginning. Why aren't they afraid of us? The answer came in the form of a comprehensive data packet, transmitted simultaneously to every Federation vessel. It contained humanity's complete history, not the sanitized version in the Federation's databases, but the real story, full of disasters, triumphs, and most importantly, adaptation. "You see," Dr. Santos's voice explained over the transmission, "humans never needed 7,000 years of peace to advance. We advanced because we never had peace. Every catastrophe taught us something new. Every disaster made us more creative. Every threat became an opportunity to innovate." The Federation's analysts began reviewing the data, and for the first time, they understood. Humans hadn't just survived their chaotic history, they had thrived on it. Each crisis had forced them to think differently, to find solutions where none should exist. "Your mistake," Director Tanaka added, "was assuming that peace breeds strength, but peace without challenge leads to stagnation. Humanity's strength comes from chaos, from the constant need to adapt and overcome." Commander Khan's voice joined the transmission from the outer system. "You built an empire based on control and predictability. We built a civilization that turns uncertainty into an art form. That's why your weapons didn't work. They were designed to fight an enemy that thinks like you do." The Federation's War Council watched in stunned silence as their own tactical analysis confirmed what humans had known all along. Their mighty armada had been defeated not by superior weapons, but by superior adaptability. "Perhaps," Lieutenant Volkov suggested dryly, "it's time we discuss terms for a more entertaining kind of peace." The peace negotiations that followed were unlike anything the Federation had experienced in 7 millennia. Instead of formal ceremonies in grand halls, humanity insisted on hosting what they called a galactic block party. The location, Earth's entire solar system. "We find," Admiral Patel explained to a bewildered Federation delegation, "that people are more honest when they're having fun." The Federation's diplomats, still struggling to maintain their dignity, found themselves at tables scattered across orbital stations, asteroid bases, and planetary colonies. Each location offered a different Earth cuisine, entertainment, and most importantly, perspective on human culture. Director Tanaka hosted a group of Federation scientists in Mount Fuji's research complex, where Dr. Santos demonstrated how they had turned quantum physics into a form of performance art. "You see," she explained, showing them a cat video that had disabled 3 dreadnoughts, "the universe already has a sense of humor. We just learned to speak its language." In the Kuiper Belt, Lieutenant Volkov organized what she called a space demolition derby, using decommissioned Federation ships and human asteroids. The event was meant to demonstrate the principles of chaos theory in combat, but mostly served to show that even warfare could be entertaining if approached with the right attitude. The most significant breakthrough came during what humans called the Great Galactic Talent Show. Federation representatives, attempting to understand human culture, participated in performances ranging from stand-up comedy to interpretative dance. To everyone's surprise, some showed genuine talent once they stopped trying to maintain their rigid dignity. "You know," Commander Khan remarked to Supreme Commander Vexthor as they watched a crystalline being attempt karaoke, "this is what we've been trying to tell you. The universe isn't about control. It's about adaptation, creativity, and sometimes making a fool of yourself for the sake of growth." The Federation's council, watching their own people gradually embrace chaos, realized that humanity had given them something they hadn't known they were missing: the ability to evolve beyond their own limitations. The new peace treaty, when it was finally drafted, was unlike any other in galactic history. Instead of focusing on restrictions and controls, it emphasized cultural exchange, creative collaboration, and what humans called the right to be wonderfully weird. Admiral Patel signed the treaty with a flourish, using what she claimed was a pen that had once been used to write comedy sketches. "Welcome," she told the Federation representatives, "to a galaxy where peace doesn't mean stagnation and order doesn't mean conformity." The immediate effects were profound. Federation worlds, exposed to human culture, began to rediscover their own capacity for innovation. Species that had been locked in rigid social structures for millennia started experimenting with new ways of thinking, living, and creating. In the years that followed, the galaxy experienced what historians would later call the Great Awakening. The Federation, guided by humanity's example, transformed from a force of control into a network of diverse, dynamic civilizations. Military doctrine gave way to creative problem-solving. Rigid hierarchies evolved into flexible, adaptive systems. Dr. Santos' team established the first Interstellar Institute of Creative Physics, where scientists from across the galaxy learned to combine advanced mathematics with artistic expression. Their discoveries revolutionized everything from space travel to entertainment. The Kuiper Belt became home to the galaxy's largest entertainment complex, where species from across space came to experience what Lieutenant Volkov called controlled chaos. The Federation's former military academies were transformed into schools of innovation and adaptive thinking. "You know what the best part is?" Commander Khan asked during the 10th anniversary celebration of what humans still jokingly called the war that wasn't. "What's that?" Admiral Patel replied, watching a group of former Federation warriors perform an interpretative dance about quantum mechanics. "They finally understand why we laughed. The galaxy had learned what humanity had known all along. True strength lies not in the ability to maintain order, but in the capacity to embrace chaos and turn it into something beautiful." The 7,000 years of rigid peace had given way to an era of dynamic harmony, where difference was celebrated and change was welcomed. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of the Himalayan Command Center, a small plaque commemorated the moment when humanity taught the galaxy to laugh. Below it, in small letters, was written what had become the new motto of interstellar civilization: "In a universe of infinite possibilities, the best defense is a good punchline." The end.